Welcome everybody to R2 F2 Prognostication week number 1. I'm Robbie Russell as always, and that's right, we're less than 24 hours away from kickoff of the 2013 season. So without further ado, let me get right into it and start with the quarterback sleepers I like for week number 1. A few sleepers I like for the opening kickoff weekend is Michael Vick and Alex Smith against Jacksonville. Now, Michael Vick plays Washington, and Vick, you have to remember, did not face the Redskins last year. But in 2011, in both games against Washington, he combined for 4 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions with at least 235 passing yards in each of those games. I still don't see a great secondary in Washington, and they finished last season as the 3rd worst passing defense. As I mentioned, Alex Smith draws the Jaguars, and similar to the Vick situation, I don't see the Jaguars presenting a tough challenge on defense against Alex Smith. Now you got to remember, Alex Smith is in Kansas City with a new head coach and one of the best running backs in the game in Jamal Charles. Speaking of Jamal Charles, Alex Smith will be dumping off to Charles. And you have to remember, they have Donnie Avery, Dwayne Bowe, and Alex Smith really loves his tight end. And in preseason, you notice he was throwing to Fasano quite a lot. I like Alex Smith to produce top 10 numbers this week. A few other quarterbacks I love for week 1 is Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Tony Romo, Brandon Weeden, and Matthew Stafford. A few quarterbacks that I don't really like week number 1 are Cam Newton and Eli Manning. As we know, the Seahawks have one of the best defenses, if not the best, in the league. And Cam Newton and the Panthers played against them last year in Carolina. Well, in that game, Cam didn't have a stellar game. And I don't see much improvement this year. The Panthers struggled to run the ball last year, and in preseason they've struggled to run the ball again, which may mean Seattle's going to play the pass a lot. Now, although Seattle may be without Chris Clements, Bruce Irvin, and Cliff Avril, that won't slow down the Seahawks defense. On Eli Manning's side of the ball, they play Dallas. You remember, Dallas has Monty Kiffin now as their defensive coordinator. If you go back and look at last year, Eli did horrible against the Cowboys. Now, Eli in those 2 games last year only threw 1 touchdown and 1 interception. In one of those games, he passed 213 yards, and in the other, he didn't even touch 200 yards. Now, in that game on prime time, I expect Eli to do a little bit better come Sunday night, but not much. Moving on to the running backs. Running backs you may want to start this week as a flex option or maybe your second running back include Isaac Redman of the Steelers, Stephen Ridley and Shane Vereen of the New England Patriots, and Darren McFadden of the Raiders. Now, Shane Vereen and Stephen Ridley will both have a good game no matter who you start. I mean, I'm sure the majority of you out there only have one of them. So whoever you start will be okay. If you're in a PPR league, Vereen is definitely a good option. But I believe it's Ridley that'll get majority of the carries. And also, Buffalo gave up the most rushing touchdowns last season and haven't improved much. Redmond is getting the start for Pittsburgh against an unchanged Tennessee Titans defense from a year ago. Last year, Tennessee gave up the 8th most rushing touchdowns and finished 24th against the run. Now, speaking of Darren McFadden, I believe this is the year he plays in all 16 games. That's a big if, but it's a gamble I'm willing to step out and say. He draws an easy matchup week number 1 against the Indianapolis Colts. McFadden will be fed dump passes all game long, and with Terrell Pryor not having the best accuracy or the best throwing ability, I see McFadden really posting top 5 numbers this week in PPR leagues. A few other running backs I just absolutely love this week is Giovanni Bernard of the Cincinnati Bengals, Steven Jackson, another huge PPR guy of the Atlanta Falcons, Doug Martin against the Jets, and Reggie Bush against the Minnesota Vikings. There's not too many running backs that I don't like this week, but a few that you may want to keep on your bench until week number 2 rolls around is Eddie Lacy of the Packers and Maurice Jones-Drew of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wide receivers that have to be in your lineup, if you've drafted them, or in some cases, probably rare, but could be free agents, that you can use as a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3 or a flex option are Michael Floyd of the Arizona Cardinals, Marquez Colston of the Saints, Kenbrell Tompkins of the New England Patriots. I love that kid. Marcus Wheaton, who is climbing up my draft board, of the Pittsburgh Steelers. DeAndre Hopkins, who just recently was cleared for week 1 of his concussion problems. Mike Williams of the Bucks, and Miles Austin of the Dallas Cowboys. Similar to the running back situation, there's not too many wide receivers that are high on the rankings this week that are considered busts, but a few may be one that you may want to keep on the bench are your Tennessee Titan wide receivers and your Miami wide receivers. Mike Wallace in particular is going to have a rough first week, I believe, lining up or drawing Joe Hayden as the cover man and being in the dog pound in Cleveland. I just find it hard for Mike Wallace to really produce. Hardline may, but they're going to really focus on Wallace, I believe. Rolling right into the tight ends, and a few that come to my mind instantly are Julius Thomas for the Broncos, Zach Sudfeld, remember that name, of the New England Patriots, Jordan Cameron of the Browns, and Kyle Rudolph for the Minnesota Vikings. If Gronk plays or doesn't play, Sudfeld should still be on your roster. If you think back to last year, the Patriots loved their 2 tight ends, Aaron Hernandez, Gronk. Well, again this year, Sudfeld's going to take the role of Aaron Hernandez, and I expect Sudfeld to be on the field just as much as Gronk. A few kickers that I like for the week are Steven Hauschka for the Seattle Seahawks, Garrett Hartley of the Saints, and Randy Bullock in that Monday night Week 1 finale matchup out in San Diego. Your defenses that require a Week 1 start has to be the Kansas City Chiefs against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And a few others are the Bucks against a rookie quarterback in Geno Smith. They could have a field day. Darrelle Revis is also making his return to the Meadowlands, where I believe he does play the Cardinals and the Steelers. Well, there you have it. All your Week 1 sleepers and a few busts, in my opinion, that should be in your lineup or should be kept on the bench. I wish everybody the best of luck in 2013. And in Week 1, every week matters. You go out there and get that first victory. Any football questions, fantasy football questions, you can write me on Facebook. You can write me on Twitter. I'll have both of my addresses there down in the bottom of the description. I appreciate all the support. And until week number 2, I'm Robbie Russell, and I'll see you back here next week.